Hi guys, I'm gonna make one last video before Worlds kicks off, and I'm gonna be talking about my favorite team coming into the World Championship, explaining why they're my favorite team. I mean, for one, I'm quite fond of a lot of the players on the team, individually, but also I really like the way that they draft. I think their drafts have a lot of promising things in them, and I'm gonna go through why that is. I've talked about this a bit in my Crystal Ball picks video, but I'm going to do a video just on the team, which is DamWon KIA. Um, so I'm going to start out with the big disclaimer. This team is 100 times better when they play Nuggery instead of Burden. Or Birdall Burden, you know the meme. And then the other disclaimer is that this team, like a lot of teams, had the Renekton affinity. However, the later we go through their games played, they've actually given up on it, which is quite promising. I think they're one of the teams that have actually realized what's wrong with it. Particularly in the final series, which we'll get into in a bit, but in that one, I'll go over why top lane was also so important. So I have a selection of games here. This is every game that they played in the playoffs and in the gauntlet. So not their regular season games, but the games they played to get to Worlds, essentially. So their first series was in the playoffs against KT. Now, for this series, what I want to talk about is how flexible this team is. Okay, a lot of their drafts they end up in like bad scenarios. Like most of the time, I feel like they're in a good scenario in draft, and I actually went through and looked at like how each team's drafting, and DamWon turned out to be in the lead in draft more often. So I also think they're like better at drafting. Um, but for this series, I want to go over just how flexible they are. So here, you can see that in game one, they're playing a very heavy like engage comp with the Renekton Wukong. Like they want to be really aggressive early. And one thing they've done well in their draft when drafting an aggressive comp, sorry, is they've ensured that they've got three winning lane matchups. They've got the LeBlanc into the Azir, um, which has solo kill potential. They've got the Renekton into the Sejuani, which should be winning in the early lane, and then they've got Lucian Nami into the Zeri Lulu, which is going to destroy the lane. So this, it's the option for them to snowball is there. So that's game one. Game two, we have a complete 180. So DamWon KIA are on the red side here, and the enemy draft Ornn, they draft Trundle and Azir, Kalista, Tahm Kench. So this is like a very heavy engage comp. And DamWon, they get Talia, very hard to engage into, Poppy, extremely hard to engage into, and Braum, extremely hard to engage into. And they play to protect this Draven that's going to win the lane because it's a counter pick like in lane as well. So I think this is a really good draft. The problem is this Yone pick makes no sense thematically. Like I get that he wants to play Yone into Ornn, but it just doesn't fit the theme at all. But like this is a complete 180. So they've now played hard aggressive, and they've now also played a disengage comp. And they also have the Braum to block the Ornn ult. It's a really good like vacuum answer, but it's not as important. And then in game three, they do a similar thing. They're on red side again here. They play like a disengage comp into this Wukong, Silas, Lucian Nami, and Swain. But the problem this time, and why I think they ended up losing, is that the Swain into the Ornn, and now KT have the Lucian Nami into Aphelios Lulu. They actually have losing lanes. And KT can find more of a gold lead here. Game four, they go for a complete new style of comp. Again, they're on blue side now, and this is like a full pick comp. They've got the Yumi that can detach and roam around with like jungle or mid. They've got the Ari Vi, classic pick comp mid jungle. They've got Neela, which can go in and look for like ultimate, so even the AD carry is capable of playing pick. So yeah, I think they kind of outdrafted themselves here in this game. Again, I don't like their draft that much, but it shows their flexibility. They can play another style of comp. And then finally in game five, they play another style of comp. So here KT are drafting full disengage and peel back for this Zeri, okay? And what DamWon do is they identify that the way to beat a disengage thematic comp is by drafting range and poke. So they've already got the Aphelios, which has kind of got some range to it, and then they've got the Renata to stop them ever getting engaged on, and then they pick the Corki, and this Corki pick here is so insane. Like none of these champs can ever really interact with Corki. He just pokes them down, kills them, and then they've got follow-up engage with like Package, they've got Wukong, they've got Camille, so yeah. another style of play that they play in this series. So just in that series alone, I think they played all 4 major styles of play. They played the engage, the aggressive comp, they played disengage comps, they played a pick comp, and they played a pokey sort of outrange comp. So they're very flexible. And another thing is that I mentioned in the Crystal Ball picks is why I have them as the team to pick the most different champions at Worlds, is that just during this, like these set of games that I've got, like I've got a tab for each game, just during these games, during their playoffs and gauntlet run, they picked 35 unique champions. It's crazy. So the next series they played against T1. They lost this series, but I think they would have won if they played Nuggery every game. They only played him in one game and they won it, and I don't know why they didn't keep playing him. But yeah, I think they're the second best Korean team when they play Nuggery. So what I want to talk about in this series is their ability to flex champions, and sort of pivot their comp, and also like read the theme, which I talked about them reading the theme a bit here. Like they read the theme, they went with Corki to answer this theme. But they do it here as well. So I think they actually get outdrafted pretty hard in the first 3. They've got this Renekton, Wukong, Talia into Yumi, Sivir, Azir. So this is like a disengage package, and this is like an engage package, and this is also outscaling. So what they need is they need some way to pivot these champions into range, because as we talked about in the previous game, range is the best way to answer a disengage comp, right? And they take Senna, which is already doing what it needs to do. But then T1 pick Ornn, which can function in this disengage comp, but also provides them with some engage, and this Senna's really vulnerable to that, right? They then pick Yasuo. They play Yasuo bot lane, which I don't think many other teams, if any, really play. But it brings the Wind Wall to counter the Ornn engage, so that's no longer an option for T1. And now they have this comp where they're outranging their comp with Senna primarily. Like Azir's got some good range, but other than that, Senna's outranging Sivir, Talia's outranging Sivir. These 2 melee champs are completely outranged. And then once they've poked them down a bit, they pull the trigger with Wukong. Wukong goes in on all the half health, like poke down targets, and Yasuo follows up. So I really like this pivot. I think it's really cool what they did with the Yasuo Senna. Into game 2, there you can see here they end up playing a Poppy Braum disengage comp with a slippery carry in LeBlanc and the Draven that they want to protect. Again, the Renekton is their Achilles heel. I said it at the start of the video, this Renekton is such a fail here. But this package into this hard engage featuring dashes with like Kalista, Silas, Wukong, even Gnar engage can be stopped by the Poppy W. Braum's Wall. I mean, Braum's Wall isn't huge here actually, but he's still hard to engage into. I think there's better options than Braum, but it's still good thematic. Like, it's a good thematic read, which is what I wanted. One of the things I wanted to talk about here. Game 3. This is where it starts getting really cool. So they have a similar thing with this protect the Draven into Kalista. Oh, another thing I didn't mention, the Draven in isolation should be ahead because it's playing into the Kalista lane, which is a really good matchup for Draven. And again here, they get the Draven into the Kalista. Good individual matchup, he should be getting a gold lead. And then they pick tools to protect him because this is a full dive comp. Now, T1 up to R4, they show Kalista, her ult, really telegraphed like CC that they depend on. And Mumu, really telegraphed CC that they depend on. Lissandra wants to go in and use really telegraphed CC that they depend on. They pick Morgana. Now, Canyon plays Morgana jungle. He's one of the only 2 junglers in the LCK, I think. I think it's Canyon and Peanut that play the Morgana jungle. And it just looks so good. It, like, the Black Shield on the Draven, he just takes over. It's so good. So yeah, and it's also, like, a lot of the time it's a flex pick. Support's already taken here, but the casters thought maybe it was a mid answer into Lissandra. It wasn't. They just picked the Swain straight away, but it can also function as a flex pick for them. So that's another thing they do. And this is where I think their drafts start getting really cool. Here, I think they fail a bit in this draft, to be fair, but this is just a weird as fuck draft where, like, I think Kerio was playing Camille or something weird, like Camille Neela, I don't know. But the Silas pick I really like, but this draft's a bit of a write-off. They pick some new champions. They pick Zeri for the first time. Yeah, we'll skip this one. Everybody gets one. And then this is my favourite draft of the entire thing. So T1 go with Wukong. So they're telegraphing engage. They go into Azir Poppy. Like, perfect answer. They then go for Zeri Yumi. They slam the Yasuo. Now, right now, where is Yasuo going? Is it going top? Well, I guess it could be. Birdall plays Yone, so it stands to reason that he should be able to play Yasuo. Is it going mid? Probably not. They have Azir. Is it going bot? Well, they've already played Yasuo Senna. Are they going to go Yasuo Senna again? So, what happens on 4? Sorry, let me skip through this. What happens on 4? They pick the Senna. So now T1 are thinking, oh, they're going Yasuo Senna again, right? Into this Zeri Yumi. So now we need to pick something blindable top, okay? Because they're going to R5 top with the... sorry, we need to pick something blindable... What are they missing? Yasuo Senna, is it? Yeah, blindable top. They don't have a top lane. So they pick Galio and they pick Gnar. Now, they do pick Gnar, right? Yeah, Gnar. When he offered Aatrox, I doubted myself. But yeah, it's the Gnar pick. Okay, now, at this point, DamWon and Birdall, I suppose, despite him not playing well this game, the draft is still sick, they identify that Gnar really struggles laning against Azir. He's completely outranged. He just gets chunked out while he's in mini Gnar. Like, it's really hard for him to approach the wave. They put the Azir into top lane. They put the Yasuo into mid lane to have, like, good push into this Galio. And then into this Zeri Yumi, they play Heimerdinger Senna. Now, this entire comp is required to engage onto DamWon KIA. It cannot function with Galio, Gnar, and Wukong if it's not going forward. Have you ever been the person in solo queue that needs to run into Heimerdinger? That needs to run into a Senna that's got protection? That needs to run into Azir? This comp is so insane. I love this draft. It's my favourite draft of the year. Like, even now, before they start swapping roles, T1 have no fucking idea where anything's going. They're like, is it Yasuo top? Is it Yasuo Senna bot? Is it Heimerdinger top? Is it Azir mid? It's so cool. I love this draft. Anyway, that's the T1 series. I wanted to show their flex picks and pivots and that sort of thing. So that's another thing that they do really well. And then finally, in the gauntlet, they played against Live Sandbox. Now, the important context behind this series is that Dove, Live Sandbox top laner, is probably the weakest performing member in all of the gauntlet, like individually. I really don't rate Dove very highly, but the rest of Live Sandbox is actually cracked. Especially Prince. Prince is a really, really good AD carry. So, DamWon have Nuggery, and I think they play Nuggery every game, or... No, I think they played... Yeah, they play Birdle in one game and they lose it, and then they bring Nuggery back in and win the rest of the series. But yeah, they have an insane top gap. So, what they do here, as you can see, they wait until last pick to pick their top lane matchup. Now, by this point, they can be sure that Gragas is not going support, it's not going jungle. There's no way Gragas goes mid, so they know the Gragas is top lane. And then they pick the Aatrox, and they get a really strong top matchup. I think this is a really good matchup for Aatrox. Every time I've played it both ways around, Aatrox wins. Like, I lose as Gragas, and I win as Aatrox when I play this matchup, so, yeah. And they also, they get the winning bot lane matchup. But yeah, the main thing is the theme for what they do against Live Sandbox with the weak link of Dove is that they identify a team's weak link by player, which is a really important skill to have in draft, and they draft according to it. So if we look at game 2, again, here, Live Sandbox on blue, they actually leave their top really late. They leave it till R5, to B5, sorry. But DamWon, they leave their top all the way to R5. They are answering top every single time. They are trying to get a winning top matchup into this weak link of the team. Game 3, again, they save top all the way down here. So the top lane Aatrox comes out on R5. Nuggery says, I want to play Gwen into it. Like, he gets to answer the matchup again. And then finally, in the final game, Ornn comes out, again, very near the end of the draft. It's like Sandbox are trying to get Dove a good matchup, but DamWon just will not let them. Nuggery gets to pick his champion into the Ornn, like, on R5. So, yeah, that's another thing they do really well. So, as well as playing 35 different champions across these games, which is just madness, I think it averages out around 2 new champions every single game. They flex pick, they play every style of play, they read themes really well, they answer themes really well. They can pivot themes if they are like losing in draft. They also understand like player matchups and can draft accordingly, like they did in the Live Sandbox series, making sure that their strong player of Nuggery has a good matchup into Live Sandbox's weakest player of Dove. Um, so yeah, I just think DamWon have the best drafts out of any team that I've watched, and I really enjoy watching their drafts. And they're also my dark horse going into the tournament because I think they're the second best Korean team when they play Nuggery, and if they play Nuggery every game at Worlds, I genuinely think they have the potential to win the World Championship. Like, they're not my favorite, they're far from it, but they're definitely my dark horse. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you with the Worlds content. See you later. Bye.